All right, so now we are on console.cloud.google.com. What you will do to reach to VPC service controls is on the top left hand side, you will click on this hamburger menu and go and search for security, right? And within security, you will find security there. And within security, you will see that we have VPC service controls. Once you start looking at VPC service controls, you will see that you can click on new perimeter and then start configuring perimeter here. But before we start doing VPC service control implementation here, let us also look at all the resources that we want to protect here. Okay, so what I have done is I have created a virtual machine here. And of course, please remember this virtual machine has a service account which is associated, which lets this virtual machine be able to read and write to a database service, right? And I will be reading and writing from a GCS bucket, which is my object storage service in Google Cloud Platform, right? Now, as of now, if you look here, there is no perimeter here. And before we jump into start configuring perimeter, I want to show you what is it possible that if perimeter was not there, what is it that I could do here? Okay, so coming back here, go to VM instance here and you SSH into this window. Okay, let it open, as well as we will open up a Cloud Shell. Okay, so two things are happening right now. One is I'm connecting via SSH into this virtual machine, and two is there is a tiny virtual machine which is provided by Google which does not sit inside my project, right? This virtual machine is a temporary virtual machine which is called as Cloud Shell. It is given to me by Google, and which is a temporary virtual machine which is running a Debian Linux operating system here, right? So this is the SSH window that I have for the virtual machine which is created here, which is VPC SVC controls. This is the virtual machine that I'm talking about here, right? Now, if I do say gsutil-ls, and you know that what this command is for, this command is basically to list all your buckets which are there in this project, right? So we will say -p, which indicates the project, which is jkumarjain-demo, right? And if I do this, what happens? It basically lists all the project, all the buckets which are there within this project, right? And now if you look here, which is basically the Cloud Shell that I have created here, right? Now this Cloud Shell, as I said, is sitting outside my project. It is not part of my project. Okay. Now if I run gsutil-ls here also, hey, giving a project ID is optional, but let us do that. So I give project ID here and run this command once again. Yes, it is also able to read my buckets here, right? These are all the buckets which are sitting here, and I'm able to read these buckets and able to list out all the buckets which are here. Okay, now let us do one more thing. Okay, part of the setup here, I have created a virtual machine, and this virtual machine has all the right set of permissions here. I have created this virtual machine with a service account and have given permissions to let this virtual machine be able to talk to GCS bucket, right? I hope you understand the role that service accounts plays, right? Basically, you give permissions for this virtual machine to be able to talk to Google APIs and services, right? You could also do the same thing using Google Scopes, right? So either using service accounts or scopes, you have created a virtual machine, and this virtual machine can now talk to Google APIs and services. Now this virtual machine that I have created is named VPC service controls, and this is within the project which is jkumarjain-demo. Now look at the bucket that I have created. So within the same project that you see here, jkumarjain-demo, you look at the list of the buckets which are here, right? So these are all the buckets which are created within jkumarjain-demo. Okay. Now what I have done is I have also created another project which is GCP team, And within GCP team project, I have created few more buckets and I have other data which is here within this project, right? Also look at that, hey, I have a Cloud Shell, which is nothing but a temporary Debian Linux virtual machine, which is given to me. And please understand, this virtual machine is not created, not configured as part of my project. This is basically sitting outside my project, right? So please understand, part of setup, we have two projects. One is jkumarjain-demo and another one which is GCP team. Within jkumarjain-demo, I have a virtual machine, and this virtual machine has the right set of permissions because I have configured a service account. So this virtual machine can talk to GCS bucket and basically read and write data from GCS bucket. Right now, in a scenario, you could be holding your millions of credit card data or PDF files or images or part of KYC process. If you are a large bank, customer have submitted their identity proof or address proofs, their social security numbers, etc. Now all of this data is sitting as an object files within Google Cloud Storage bucket, right? So what do I want to do is I want to create a perimeter and I want to make sure that the application which is running here within JKumar Jain project, right, within this virtual machine inside this project has read and write capability only within the perimeter. But if somebody has right set of all the credentials, even if credentials are true, even then they should not be able to read this data and be able to copy this data outside the platform, right? So now with this background, let us go and create a perimeter here. Okay, so we will come back to VPC service controls here, click on that and then click on this button which is new perimeter. Click on new perimeter and it will present you set of steps that you have to configure, right? These are 7 set of steps that we have to configure. Give it a title. Hey, what is it you want to call this perimeter here? Okay, so we will call it, confidential data perimeter, or you could take some name, right? This is a regular perimeter. There could be a bridge that we could create here, and in another video I will talk about what a perimeter bridge is, what is the capability that perimeter bridge provides to us, right? As well as there are two types of configs here. One is enforced mode, another one is dry run. So what I'm going to do here is create a enforced mode and not in a dry run. With dry run, it is basically for testing purpose. But with an enforced mode, it will start the implementation or it will start enforcing the perimeter right from the onset, right? There is no testing time that you get with dry run. So let us begin with enforced mode itself, which is the default setting that I have here. Okay, that's number 1. Now go to number 2. We will select project here. Hey, which project holds confidential data? And that is the project name that you have to add up here. So my project is basically click on this button which is add project here, right? And if you have multiple projects, you can list down all the projects. If you have few projects and if they are already listed here, just select your project here and then click on add project button here. Project is added, click on done. This screen will refresh itself. Okay, and you see that jkumarjain-demo project is added. Now this project is within the perimeter, right? Now within the project, what is it you want to restrict? Okay, so hey, what services do you want to restrict? It could be BigQuery where you have data. It could be Cloud SQL that you are using to store your data, or it could be GCS bucket that you have to hold your data that you want to protect. You could bring either all the services or you could specify a specific service, right? So click on add service here. One option is, of course, click on this, which is like all APIs and therefore all services that you want to protect. But for my demo purpose, I want to restrict to GCS bucket. Okay, so I would type here cloud storage, and then you see that it lists out Google Cloud Storage API here for me, right? So click on that Google Cloud Storage API, right? And then you have to, of course, click on this checkbox again and hey, add Google Cloud Storage API. So for my demonstration, I have added protection for my GCS bucket because Google Cloud Storage API is what your application will require to be able to read and write data from GCS bucket. This is what I'm going to protect here, right? This is my restricted service. Next, within the VPC, what is it that you want to access and what is it that you do not want for any service to be able to read or access, right? So one is you could say all services does not make sense. You do not want all services to be accessible, but rather you want only restricted services within the VPC, right? So these restricted services will be accessible within the service perimeter that you create, right? But not outside the perimeter, and that is what you are defining here by selecting all restricted services. Now imagine you want none of the services to be accessible, or at least whatever the restricted services, right? So you could select either no service, which will basically stop all the service access, right? Or you could say, hey, access all the service, or you could say selected services. So we will say, hey, yes, we have restricted certain services, and these are the services that should be accessible within the perimeter, right? This is what we will do here. So all restricted services. Now you could configure 5, 6, and 7 here, which are optional here, right? I will create another 10-minute video to quickly cover the parts which are part of 5, 6, and 7, right? 5 is basically you define a ingress policy. I'm not going to talk about ingress policy right here, not required for my current use case, but you could do that, right? Then your ingress policy, you could add the rules here, and for egress policy, you can add the rules here, right? So we have not touched upon access levels, ingress policy, and egress policy. But what we have done is we have selected a project, we have selected a service that we want to protect against, and then we have said that, hey, we want to access this service within the perimeter, within Google Cloud, within the VPC. Sorry, I have to say that this service is accessible within the perimeter via this virtual machine which is hosting my application, but nothing else, right? As simple as this. And now you go and create a perimeter, right? Now once this perimeter is created, it will take about 30 seconds for this set of permissions to get propagated, right? So you will have to wait 10 to 15 up to 30 seconds for these permissions to get propagated. Okay, now I believe this is already propagated here. Okay, we have created a perimeter here, and now if you come back here, okay, so we have this VM instance, and remember this VPC service controls is within jQumargen demo, which is part of or which is inside the perimeter. So look at this window, which is SSH window into this virtual machine that we had created. And remember, this is the gsutil ls command we had fired before we had created a perimeter, right? Should this work again? I hope you know the answer. It will work again, or it should work again. Why? Because this virtual machine is inside the perimeter. So if I just clear this window right now once again and say gsutil ls once again, and my project is optional, but let us give it, okay? So this is gsutil ls, which is basically to list all the buckets here in the project, which is jQumargen-demo, which is inside the perimeter. And if I hit enter, it should list, and definitely it lists because we are still within the perimeter, right? Now, if you go to Cloud Shell, okay, and now if you look at this Cloud Shell and if you do gsutil ls, what do you think will happen? Do you think it will list it out or no? Pause this video, think about an answer, and come back. Yes, if you thought that it will not work, you are right. Why? Because as I told you, this Cloud Shell machine is a tiny temporary Debian virtual machine which is given by Google Cloud for me, which is not part of my project, which is not within the perimeter. So if I hit enter this one, gsutil ls-p jQumargen-demo, you see this, right? It says access denied. 403, request is prohibited by organization's policy, right? Can I access my other project, which is dash P GCP team? Can I do that? Because that is not part of my perimeter. Yes, I can do that, right? Now, the other part is, hey, I am coming back here into VM instance, right? And I'm going back to the Cloud Shell window here. Okay. Now, what will happen if I try to read or try to talk to a GCS bucket which is outside my perimeter? So if I run the same gsutil command, but not within the perimeter, not to Google Cloud Storage buckets which are in jkumarjan-demo, but which is with GCP team. Now, please remember, GCP team project is not part of or not within the perimeter. Now, what should happen? Yes, if you were thinking that it will not work, you are right, because this is not within the perimeter. So if I hit enter gsutil ls-p GCP team, it will not work. It has not worked. Can this application read data from this GCS bucket and be able to write this data from GCS bucket locally into this virtual machine disk? Can I do a copy operation here, right? So yes, it should be possible. So if we run this command gsutil cp, which will copy my data from the bucket, which is, say, let us pick up a bucket here, which is this. Okay, let us pick up a bucket here and then copy everything into my local directory and do that recurringly if there are multiple objects or folders, etc., and hit enter. So yes, it could copy all the data, reading this data from this GCS bucket into this virtual machine, right? Now, can this virtual machine, which is within the perimeter, read the data from a GCS bucket which is outside in another project? Can it do it? Let us try that out. So if I want to run this command once again, which is gsutil ls, but project GCP team, would it be able to do it? I hope you know the answer that no, right? Simply because this bucket lives outside the perimeter. So you see this access denied exception request here, right? I hope you understood this part, that how beautiful this capability is, and it helps you to protect against risk of data exfiltration here. Okay, I hope you liked this video. I hope this was useful for you. You could learn something new, and I hope you will try this out in your environment. And if you have any questions, please put your questions in YouTube here in the comments section. I will read the comments and I will try to answer your questions here. Right? So with this, thank you so much and wish you good luck. Thank you.